I am in swearing purgatory.
Still.
We, just to be so transparent, we filmed 4 of these before you've seen the very first one. So what happened is that in the first episode, maybe the second episode, I said a swear word, as I generally do.
True.
And like really caught myself and really apologized. And then you put out a plea to the listeners to please let us know, are you listening to this with your children?
Yes.
Is this like gonna be a problem, or can I speak the way that I normally speak?
And we still don't know because the first episode is coming out next Tuesday.
First episode is coming out next Tuesday, which when you see this will be a full month ago.
Oh my gosh.
So we will be full of content while I'm still sitting here monitoring my words.
Yeah.
Please, oh please say that I can swear, but not if your children are listening to this. You can tell the truth, but I really hope that the truth is that in episode 5.
I hope so too.
I
find
just
it
calm
comedic
down a little bit.
Yeah. I think I've lived my life so filtered for so long that it's just not, it's not a thing. And yet I love when you swear. I think it, and you use it perfectly. You're just so good with words. So it's never a waste of space. But we do understand if you're listening with little ones, we don't want Auntie Layne to be the reason that little Lily learned how to say the F word or something.
No.
Right?
Though if she did, I would teach her how to contextualize it correctly.
That's true. That's a good point.
But I don't know her. I'm not going to talk to her. So I won't swear in front of her. But it feels very good to just like at the opening of this episode, let off the steam that I've been very carefully not swearing this whole time.
You've been doing such a good job.
Thank you.
I noticed. I'm Jessica Hover.
I'm Layne Dealing-Churland, and this is Very Good Enough, a podcast from Very Good Mothers Club.
So my Eloise, she's 7. We had this incident happen. Well, I should start with this. Wilson, he's 3, and he is obsessed with trucks, obsessed. Wrecking ball is like his favorite thing ever. He talks about it all the time. Multiple times a day, he asks me if I can get him a wrecking ball truck toy, which I've never even seen a wrecking ball truck toy. So I don't know.
Where like it actually swings?
Yes.
That would be amazing.
I've made him, I like attached a little ball to a string to his basketball hoop and was like, there it is. And it was fun for a moment, but it's not the wrecking ball toy he has his mind set on and his heart set on that I've never seen and he's never seen.
Sure.
I've looked it up. I can't find it anywhere. Because I've thought like for next Christmas gift or something, you know, this is what he asked for multiple times a day. So there was one that we saw on Walmart.com and I told Eloise, I think this place has one. I never go to Walmart. Didn't actually even know where the one was, but there's one pretty close to us. I go there with Eloise and we have our heart set on finding the wrecking ball truck. And I wasn't actually even intending on buying the wrecking ball truck in that moment. I just want to know that they have it so that one day when the time is right, there will be this really special exchange of a gift and love and he will have the joy and it'll be beautiful. And Eloise is on board because she is his roommate. They talk about wrecking balls every day. It's very sweet. They're best friends. And so we go and we can't find the wrecking ball. We scour the aisles. Like Eloise is on a mission to find Wilson this wrecking ball truck. So as she's looking for this wrecking ball truck, she's like, Mom, if we find it, I'll give away 20 toys if we could get it today. And I'm like, that is really cute. And to be very honest, financially in that moment, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to put $20 towards this. We have some needs. It's a tough time. I'm just not sure about that. So we can't find the truck. We've looked everywhere. But then Eloise finds a Paw Patrol wrecking ball truck that is $50. And
luxury.
Luxury is right. Also, Wilson is a very new fan of Paw Patrol.
Whoa.
Very new, but very much a fan.
Paw Patrol fans go hard.
Oh, he's going hard for sure. Everything. A lot of conversations about Paw Patrol and wrecking balls. Never an overlap. He never suspected there might be an item.
Who could imagine?
That would be both. But here it was. Eloise had landed on the jackpot of wrecking ball trucks. I remember the feeling of being a kid and wanting certain things and my family being in a state financially where we couldn't get them. And I remember what a bad feeling it was.
Yeah, me too.
We weren't poor, but there were moments where I thought we were compared to my friends. We probably were compared to my friends, to be honest, but I would never want to like make my moms feel like we were in a bad place or something. Sure. They worked really hard. But so I remember that feeling. So as this is happening, my gut is like I just feel like a little bit of a drop inside of like, oh my gosh, she found this. She's so excited about it. But we're really not in a month. And this happened a few weeks ago. It wasn't the month. I mean, it was the month where Sean and I are going, do we have to change the work I'm doing? Like what has to shift so we can make a living and afford our life right now?
Yeah.
But she's so excited. So I don't want to tell her no. We get all the way to the register. And I know that if I get it, it's going to be like, she will be excited. Wilson will just be so happy he might not recover. But it will really be something significant for Sean and I that I just didn't know if it was the moment for that. And so I'm trying to figure out how to handle this. And we're at the register. We scan it. That's how close I am. I know.
I did not realize that it had come all the way across.
Yeah.
I guess not the finish line, but the conveyor belt.
Just about.
Whoa.
Yeah. So then I couldn't do it. I didn't feel right about it. And so I pulled her aside and I was like, girlfriend, I would love to get this for Wilson for you. And because she's like, I'll get rid of all of my toys. I'll work. Like I'll do these things. And I was like, so sweetie, the way that the money works actually is like, if I have the money for this, I would be able to do that. I would be the one paying you for the work you're doing or the things you're getting rid of or something like that's the transaction. But I'm like, so if we don't have money as a team, as our family team, then what we do is we look for ways to generate money for our family.
Yeah.
So what mommy's doing is Very Good Mothers Club. She knows all about Very Good Mothers Club, or mommy's doing YouTube work, or mommy's doing these different things that earn money from outside of our home. And I mean, good job, Eloise, because she wasn't crying. I mean, she was eaten. So she had eaten. That's what I mean.
Sure.
You know, if she was hungry or tired, this would not have been the moment.
She was eaten by a bear.
She was yeah. So she was eaten by a bear. That's how
we're not doing
it.
The podcast anymore because my daughter was eaten by a bear.
Have I ever told you that I would tell you on pod? That was my fear for a time. I used to post about it on social media that I had
your child would be eaten.
I had a really because I was
now
at
I feel
park.
bad.
No, I was at a park and someone was like, "Oh, sometimes there's bears here," and it was like a park in the mountain, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know I had to be afraid of bears." But then the fear took me over, and I would be in a place where there certainly has never been a bear, and I am just looking like, there must be a bear here. Yeah. So the bear.
It's your new substitute fear for just the overall dread that now that your child is alive, they will one day die and you have to just delay that day.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I think I didn't even know bears were that scary. And then someone explained to me, which is funny because why would I go so far into like, could you please terrify me with bears? Like what's so scary about a bear? And they're like, and then they did. But don't look it up. It's not worth it. So what I meant to say was Eloise had eaten. So she wasn't hungry, which means emotionally she was in a state where I could say something hard and she might cry, but she definitely wouldn't have the major meltdown because she's 7. She got it. It was really crazy. I mean, she was sad and she was like, could we hide the toy so that nobody else buys it and we come back? I'm like, yeah, definitely.
Super smart. That's how Walmart works.
Yeah, exactly.
For a kid who's never been to Walmart before, she sure seems to get it.
I feel like it took me back to times I had done that in Walmart.
You know where you hide things at Walmart? You take them from the toy aisle far away.
Yes.
And then you take them to the women's clothing section where there are those circle ones. And then you put it inside the circle rack. Walmart employees from the 90s are just digging toys out from inside the circular clothing
all the Paw Patrol wrecking ball toys right in there.
Yeah.
Except they didn't have Paw Patrol then.
Talking Barney.
So it would have been like, or like Tickle Me Elmo maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
Tickle Me Elmo has endured.
Yeah.
That toy has stood the test of time.
It's
and
so
let me
true.
tell you,
I've
never met a Tickle Me Elmo whose batteries I didn't take out immediately.
The long story long is it was really good. I told her, she understood. And then what her sweet little self did is while we were driving home, she said, if I write a book and I sell it, can I use the money to buy Wilson a wrecking ball truck? And I was like, yes, of course. What should our book be? Like our meaning, I'll help you do this. And she wanted to write a book for babies and little kids and have it be called The Baby Seas by Eloise. And she like fully developed this concept in the car. She's like, I'm going to teach little kids about letters and what words go with them, and she's fully like, she's got all these ideas for how it's going to be. And she wants to draw all the pictures. And so I told her if she does this, then I'll take it and make it a book and we'll sell it. And then she also likes to sell art. That's how we went to Disneyland this year, was she had sold art to get tickets for Disneyland. So I was like, I'm sure that I could find people who would want to buy a book for their kids, and I'm sure you could sell enough to buy a wrecking ball truck for Wilson. And so I told you the story, and then what would you like us to do with the book that she's making?
Well, I would first like to very publicly, as I did privately, compliment Eloise on The Baby Seas by Eloise.
I know.
That is like written in verse.
Isn't
like there's
that
a
so
flow
cute?
to that and a cadence that is truly genius.
I
Grown-ups
know.
sit
I think
in
so too.
like conference, like grown-up men sit in conference rooms and are like, we have to sell another children's book.
Yeah, but wait, it's for babies, and it's the ABCs, and her name is Eloise. I've got nothing.
Nothing. Yes.
Yeah.
So Off the Dome, genius.
Yeah.
That is
Agreed.
like really, really impressive.
Yeah.
And I just think that her like the entrepreneurial spirit is really beautiful, and the giving in that is really beautiful. And I feel like after she has, which she most definitely will, earned the amount of money that she needs to buy her brother this toy, that we should like found something, some kind of branch or wing of the business that continues to like fund Eloise's charitable work, like takes her work and
Helps
sends
kids
money somewhere to help kids who are like local to her and in her same zone.
Yeah. Well, since we're on the topic of Eloise, we can just actually use that to give us what this whole conversation is going to be about today, because I'm in this new stage with her where she's experiencing more of the world. And so the other day when I was in the car with her, she asked me, what does she do if a bad guy tries to get her in some way? And my initial reaction is to be like, that's not going to happen. And I mean it in the way of like, because I would never let that happen to you. You know, like the instinct, speaking of bear, like the mama bear in me is like, oh, heck no bad guy's going to try and get you.
Right.
But when I came and talked to you about it later, it was more of an open conversation, realizing how often girls are in a position where something bad actually does happen to them, where a bad guy actually does try to do something to them. And in talking to you about some of your own life experiences, you gave me feedback that I actually immediately went home and talked to Sean and Eloise about. And I was hey, I talked to my friend. She had a bad guy experience, and here's what happened, and here's what she wants you to learn. And you can even teach your friends. I really was like, this is a good thing for little girls to know about.
Cool.
But I wondered, could you kind of take us to what do I teach a little one, or how do I talk to a little girl, probably little kids in general, but little girls specifically, about this idea of bad guys and people who come with ill intent, because I also don't want to scare her more.
Right.
So even when I went home and I talked to her, I obviously didn't go into detail of what happened. It was more like, here's what she did and here's how she's okay.
It's such a tricky one, because there is this balance of wanting to convey to little girls who are going to grow up to be women, this world is for you.
Yes.
Like, you belong here, and this place belongs to you.
Yes.
This is as much your world as it is any person's world. And at the same time, they need to know that there are certain hazards that belong to them because they live in this body, and we're sorry.
So sad.
I'm really sorry for you that there's this additional thing because you live in this body. So it's a tricky, it can be such a tricky thing to talk about. And I'm kind of wondering, this may end up being like a little bit meandering, because it feels it's so tender to me and so heavy, and then also so normal.
Sure.
Like, it's such a complex mixture of things. I wonder if it will be a little bit less of a flow than I can normally.
That's okay.
pull
Yeah,
off.
that's okay.
I think that I think that safety in this area comes a long time before you're in danger.
Okay.
So people who are predatory are looking for people who are easy to prey upon.
Okay. Yeah.
So learning how to be someone who is less easily preyed upon is kind of one of the underlying things.
Yeah.
And one of the things that makes us easily preyed upon is not knowing how to use our voice and valuing other people's experience above our own. We as adults automatically expect that little girls are there to like make it easy and make it fun and make it light and help share the responsibility and help lead the class and help clean up and help whatever and look after the boys. Those boys are, gosh, he's so silly. What a boy. He forgot his shoes. Can you take his shoes to him?
Whoa.
Just this whole thing that we get this is just kind of this extra layer of socialization. And there's a lenience on little boys making little girls uncomfortable that is just, it gets kind of swept and swooshed away. And all of these things communicate to us that our experience is less important.
And almost like for the other person's experience, how is mine affecting yours? Oh, let me shift and shape change to make sure that your experience is better.
Yes.
With me.
Yes. And part of that is that we don't express our experience. We don't use our voice to say, this is how I feel about what's happening here. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like this. We don't even notice a lot of the times. I don't like this circumstance. It feels irrelevant. Yeah. It's not even like, oh, I'm pushing down that I don't like this. It's just like, I didn't even check because it doesn't feel important whether or not I like it. And then certainly I don't know how to like use my breath to wrap around the feeling of like, please don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying that. And this comes from when you're super, super tiny and being like, that's your uncle, just give him a hug, all the way up to being like in a dating world and being like in a bar space where somebody's all up around you. Like, you know, that thing where like men move around you, but they start over here and somehow the semicircle comes close up around and behind your whole body and brushes up against you just to the other side of you. And you're like, God, like what? Or men move you to the side by the small of your waist.
Oh yeah.
What an unbelievable. Can I just take a moment in the midst of this conversation to say that is not acceptable? Yeah, the idea that someone can touch your waist, it blows your mind. But I don't say anything because if I were to be like, get your hands off me,
purgatory's over.
I'll bleep that one. I'll put a beep over it. Yeah. Don't touch me like that. Yeah. That person, that man may yell at me.
Yeah, sure.
Like the response to the man, and that man who yelled at me may get drunker later.
Right.
And I may encounter him outside. Yeah. And then now I'm in danger. Now I'm in real danger. So me saying, I don't like that, don't touch my body like that, really actually could be in danger.
It worse. Yeah.
And most of the time I'm not. Sure. And then one out of however many of the times you are in real danger. Right. So it kind of goes all the way from up to down. We offload the responsibility of our own, or we take on the responsibility of someone else's experience over our own. So in the interest of raising girls who know how to not be easily preyed upon, I have a mom who has always been so a part of our lives, which is like one of the things that has veered across the line of amazing and then into like, that might have been a lot, and then like back and forth. And that's like the thing that we've all tried to figure out how to navigate. There's a lot of just like sitting in the kitchen and being at the counter and like talking and her sharing stories and asking us questions. And I don't know where she got this because there was absolutely no one in her life keeping her safe. Her life was hard and had a lot more danger than mine, for sure. And she, on her own insides, found this thing of like, whatever girls are listening to me, I'm going to tell them no one ever gets to make you feel uncomfortable. Ever.
That's beautiful.
If any man ever is doing something, even if it's fine, I'm not telling you that you don't need to be in danger to say, I don't like that. But her whole thing is like, you always get to say, I don't like this. This is making me uncomfortable. And what she didn't know is that there's now social science behind the idea that a child who is able to out loud say, no, thank you, who is out loud able to say, I don't like that. I don't know. I think I should ask my mom. And knows the name of their body parts, all their body parts, is like considerably less likely to experience sexual abuse.
Amazing.
Because that means that they can tell the story.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these dark things that happen in secret. And it typically in a child's life and in a young woman's life is generally someone they know. Mine was a complete stranger, and maybe we'll get into that story at another time.
Sure.
Probably when we go the mental health route.
Yeah, totally.
So mine is a little bit more random in that way. And then also in my own experience, there was a lot of like me saying, no, thank you. Absolutely not. Yelling, calling for help, like really getting to use my own voice. Yeah. And I was able to escape some of the larger forms of danger in that same exact way.
Yeah.
That
yours very much was a bad guy story in the way that Eloise imagines, because for her, it's harder to wrap her mind around a close person in our life. That's more shocking.
Right.
Whereas the kind of I don't know, imaginative way of seeing the bad guy story is you're out and a bad guy comes to you and tries to harm you, and that's without telling your whole story.
Yeah,
yours was more like
absolutely
that. So when I went to her and was like, actually, my friend did have a bad guy experience, and so I was wrong. That does happen. I knew it happened, but it's like the feeling that I wish it would never happen to her. Right. So I almost don't want her to have to think about it. But I did go to her and I said, it did happen. There was a bad guy who came to my friend and tried to harm her. And I told her the using your voice and the be very confident. And we even practiced, like, what does it look like to walk and be really confident?
Yeah.
And she like did it shoulders back,
good
head
for
up.
her.
And what does it look like to walk and be like sort of shy and sort of careful and like letting them. And so she put like the head down, you know?
Yeah.
But I think all of that for her, it was play, but I had you in my mind of like, if she can be prepared before safety, it reduces the chance, or sorry, before danger,
right?
It reduces the chance of danger happening later.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like that kind of embodiment practice where she's standing like that, she's looking around. Someone comes up to her and says, hey, your mom told me to come. And she's like, I don't think so. That's not what my mom says. He's like, what's your name? And she's like, I don't actually know you. I think I'm going to wait for my mom before I tell you that. That person is gone. Yeah. Like that's not the child to kidnap or to harm.
True.
Like that play is like the actual practice of being someone
that's right.
who is standing in a more safe place and less likely
to
be in
really
real
good.
danger. The other area is keeping these things out of the secret and out of the dark, because that too, like that's always where, I think I just already said this, but like that's always where that kind of stuff happens.
Sure.
And so a child who like knows the name of their body and knows how to say like, this is where things are in my house, this is how my family functions. No, we don't do that. No, I don't play secret games. My mom told me that I can always tell her anything. That's actually not true. Or like that helps with, there's an element of like shadow and shame involved in some of that kind of stuff. And that's where things get murky, and that's where things can go on for a long time when someone has already been scary.
That makes sense.
There can be a little bit of a testing of the waters, and the child doesn't know what to do, and they know something weird happened and they feel like they were asked to keep it a secret, and it did feel weird to them, and so they kind of do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've heard from friends who this happened to, that something happened to when they were young, and they start to feel like it was their fault. So then they don't want to tell because they caused it.
I feel like the random stranger who attacked me was my fault.
Wow.
It took a long time in therapy. I was like 23 years old to be like, why do I still feel like I'm the bad thing?
Crazy.
It's crazy. I'm not a psychologist in a way that I can explain why that's there.
Sure, but that's a real
the
thing.
fact of it is that there's this like shame and guilt on the side of people who have been victimized.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Do you get on board with, well, okay, like when my kids are young or were young, Eloise, when she was little, I didn't really know what I was supposed to do, but I started telling her like, hey, mommy and daddy, we wipe your booties. We help you. Nobody else touches this spot. You touch this spot, but nobody else does. Is that like, should I be doing that? Or is that a conversation, because my mind goes to, what if later somebody else tries to, I don't want to introduce that idea when they're so little, but I also want to kind of help guard from it if something. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. For me, I try to keep conversations about genitals in the important and clean. Like those are kind of the words that I end up using, because I'm a preschool teacher, have also wiped a lot of butts.
Oh yeah.
Have also,
and
like,
so did the preschool teacher.
Wiped poop off of, like, it's kind of hard to change a little boy diaper sometimes when there's like poop everywhere. You gotta get in there because you can't leave the poop. Yeah. Yes. So I try to, and this is a good part of the like keeping it out of the shadows and the dark and the shame space, is being able to like calmly talk about like all of your body parts, being able to name them with their real names. But you can also have cute other names for them. But
my kids know
what it's called.
Yeah, they know it both, but they use the fun names.
Yeah. And then I just, this comes up kind of a lot in like exploratory play in preschool, where I have to be like, okay, cool. No problem. Can you hang out over there for a second? I'm going to chat with your friend. This part of your body is,
because they check each other's.
This part of your body is super important. Yeah. You need it for a lot of things. Also, it's open. And so it's like a place that we have to, that's why we keep it covered, and that's why we keep it safe. It needs to be really safe. It's really important. It needs to be really clean.
Okay.
So we're not going to let our friends in there. Friends have different germs. People that you don't know don't belong there. Like nobody else's germs need to get in there. There really isn't anybody except for like the safe grown-ups who keep you clean, who ever need to touch you there. Yeah. And I need you to help me with this like really important part of your body. I need you to help me keep it safe. That was a good script,
actually. I'm going to be using that. Important. Keep it safe. Keep it clean.
Yeah, because it's really, that one is one that was tricky to find words for because almost everything ends up with a secret. Sure. Of like, this belongs only to you. It's very private. Yeah. And we take on kind of like hushed tones
weird.
About it.
Everyone has one, but somehow mine's a secret.
Right. Which makes it this kind of weird thing. Sure. And I do think that we do it more with people who have vaginas than people who have penises. Okay. And some of that is anatomical. One of them is inside and one of them is on the outside. True. But a lot of it is a societal problem with vaginas. Which I'm not bleeping.
It's kind of funny to say vagina. It's not a swear. On a microphone.
It's not a swear. It's a vagina. Yes. So helping children feel confident about their bodies, helping little girls feel like their experience is as valuable as anyone else's. They do not have a greater emotional capacity than little boys. It is not their job to help you out with a little boy.
That's good.
And it's not their job to say sorry just because they can. Yeah. They don't have to do that. Yeah. I do my best to help little girls like circle back when something happened that they didn't like and express with their voice. Say, cool. I didn't like it when you this. Cool. If they can say, it made me feel uncomfortable. It made me feel something that says like my feeling is a valid part of this conversation. Then you're just building people who are like actually honestly like much more unbreakable in lots of ways in life. Like this benefits them and makes them less of a person to be preyed upon in a lot of ways. Gets those shoulders back and walking forward, eyes moving around, clarity, the ability to use their voice and have life go the way that they would like and not the way that someone else would like.
And to have healthier relationships in general. I think a lot of us as grown women don't feel like we have permission to take up space even in our own relationships or our marriages. I have friends who have expressed even recently like, oh, I would say that, but I think my husband would be upset that I feel that. And I'm like, oh, how interesting of a dynamic to have where we're not able to just be what is going on and express it. I don't know. If you could start young and raise somebody up who feels comfortable in their own body, being able to say, hey, I didn't like that rubbed me wrong. That felt bad. I don't want that to happen. What a confident woman she could grow up to be. Yeah. And I love that. I also appreciated in our conversation pre-podcast when we were talking about all this, you said now you feel much more confident to cross the street and walk on the different side of the street if somebody you're about to walk next to doesn't make you feel right inside. And that resonated with me so much because I did what you did, which is just assuming.
I was worried that I was going to hurt that person who I feel scared about feelings.
Yes. Yeah. You carry so much of this like, oh, I have to tread lightly and carefully and like accommodate everyone. Right. But I told Eloise, I was like, if you're ever walking and you see someone, it's not being mean to walk on the other side of the street. If for whatever reason you're walking and it makes you feel nervous, you go. That's fine. Yeah. And I think that's really, it's like so obvious and yet also I haven't done it. It was very good. Yeah.
Which I do also want to acknowledge as like two white ladies that there is a cognitive bias that often people will, like white women particularly, will just arbitrarily cross the street when they see a person of color approaching them. Got it. And I want to like flag that as well. Yeah. But like when you feel that feeling of danger, sure. Like I don't want little girls to override a feeling of danger. Yes. I want to like additionally address this other thing on the other side.
Absolutely.
But the thing inside my own gut that is like, I don't like the way this is feeling. Yeah. I'm gonna value my experience in this moment more than what I imagine the stranger I'm not interacting with.
But I will say that thing that you just said is almost why I wouldn't, is like, oh, I can't cross the street because even though I feel nervous, who is this offending? And so now I no longer suppress that voice that says, we don't know this person. There's no need to walk right next to them. Doesn't matter. Like nothing else matters. We're just respectfully protecting ourselves. And I think that I had never considered it until you said it. And now I'm much more aware of like, it's just safety, and teach your girls safety. And that's beyond, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The listening to yourself. Yeah. The choosing not to override the intuition
Yes.
on behalf of somebody else's feelings.
Totally.
And I appreciate that this is feeling super complex because it's super complex.
is.
Like life
Yeah.
in the world is complicated as a human.
Yeah.
It's very complicated as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's very complicated as the parent of small
Yes.
children who
Yeah.
are vulnerable
Yeah.
and are going to experience life in very different ways from each other.
Yes. Totally.
Whew.
You've taught me a lot. I'm glad we could be on this thing together.
Yeah. Thanks for being with me in that. That
Yeah.
felt tender and feels good to
Yeah.
talk about both.
What if that's the question for the day? What if the question is what I just asked you about
Yeah.
Eloise?
I think that's
And-
good, letting Eloise's question be our
Yeah.
question for today. And I will put a little trigger warning in the show notes for this show.
Yeah.
Just saying, like, we're going to talk
Perfect.
about this kind of thing. And if you want to skip it, no one's mad at you and
Yeah.
you're allowed.
Yeah. You
You're
might not
also
even be
allowed.
in the stage yet where this applies, but
Mhm.
at some point you may care about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should probably also put a humor warning because you were very funny in the beginning.
Well,
If they're
I
not
meant
able. They're not able to handle it.
Yeah.
No, I think that this is a beautiful piece of what I want to be doing with you
Mm-hmm.
is having the conversations that are really complex and hard and heavy and light and funny and all because that's what my mind is, honestly, because I go through my days and I'm like, wow, some of this stuff that we face is so big and scary.
Yeah.
And then some of it's so light and funny. And how the heck do you navigate all of that? And that's what we can help offer is how we're doing it and what we know about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the pleasure of being here. And if these are things that you have or haven't talked about or have treated these things differently, I just want to say, like, nothing that we say here is meant to come on you, the listener, as like, this is how you should have done it. Sorry, you blew
That's
it.
really good.
Ever. You
Yeah.
always get to adjust and iterate and practice.
That's right.
And you're a really good parent.
Oh
You're
my gosh.
really doing this.
Yeah. Amazing. And if there's a need, like you mentioned at one point, you went to therapy for some stuff that's
Mhm.
happened to you and it took that to realize what you were carrying.
Yeah.
Do that. If you
that.
are listening to this and you see yourself in the story and it's not a role that you wanted to have and it was never
Mhm.
meant to be yours and now you're carrying shame and pain and fear,
Yeah.
therapy.
Yeah. Also, I'm at EnquiryCo on Instagram, also in the show notes, and I would be super happy to chat about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So follow us on Instagram if you want to connect. Join our online community at Very Good Mothers Club, and we will see you, or you will hear from us. How do you say? I'm used to YouTube. We will see you, or you will hear our voices in a weekish.
A weekish.